Stripping a partisan label from a management seat isn't a simple re-indexing of the ballot. It is a hostile recapitalization of the political market in Georgia that threatens to liquidate the incumbent party equity in exactly 5 high-density counties.
County elections, nonpartisan, in 5 metro area counties passed in the state Senate this afternoon after intense debate.
The Republican-backed bill targets local offices in Clayton, Cobb, DeKalb, Fulton, and Gwinnett counties, where Democrats have picked up a number of seats in the past few elections. Fox 5's Deidre Dukes live at the state capitol for us this afternoon with the latest. Deidre?
That's right. The controversial bill passing along party lines this afternoon after heated debate. Now, if it were to become law, it would force nonpartisan elections on 5 major metro counties. Those counties, Clayton, Cobb, DeKalb, Fulton, and Gwinnett, would be required to make local races nonpartisan, including elections for DA, county commission, tax commissioner, and local school boards. Now, Republican Senator John Albers sponsored the legislation. He argues the bill improves public safety by making offices like the DA and tax commissioner nonpartisan in high-density counties with major events like the World Cup and the Super Bowl. While Democratic Minority Leader Senator Harold Jones contends the bill is racially and politically motivated and unconstitutional because it violates state law. He claims there is no data justifying the need to target the counties named in the bill.
We are witnessing a regulatory shift where the state legislature is trying to redact the Democratic D from the district attorney's office, forcing a nonpartisan reconciliation on the jurisdictions that represent the majority of the state's minority demographics and its largest economic drivers. While proponents argue this is an audit for public safety designed to clear the cobwebs of politics, critics and voter stakeholders are sounding a material alarm, claiming the bill is a targeted intervention aimed specifically at the human capital currently holding those seats. We are documenting the moment where the big red pen of Governor Brian Kemp holds the title deed to the future of Fani Willis's career, as the state moves to amortize the influence of partisan bases in the very counties where management is currently under the most intense forensic scrutiny.
Governor Brian Kemp is getting hit from all sides. Groups are urging him to veto a stack of bills as he closes out the legislative session.
And some of those bills come with loud warnings, threats of lawsuits, and questions about the constitutionality of the legislation.
One of those bills would remove those partisan labels, the D's and the R's, from 5 counties, including Fulton, DeKalb, Clayton, Gwinnett, and here in Cobb County. Critics say it raises some red flags that those counties are being singled out.
Just remember, I have a big red pen.
That's Governor Brian Kemp reminding lawmakers while he's entering his final stretch, he still decides what can become law. Now come the calls for him to use his veto power. Senate Bill 369 would make some local races nonpartisan in 5 of the largest blue-leaning suburban counties.
Now, Fulton County DA Fani Willis responded to today's vote in a written statement saying, quote, "This bill is nothing more than a continuation of Burt Jones's political attack on me and my Metro Atlanta colleagues. He is doing this on behalf of Donald Trump and his fellow MAGA extremists in the Georgia Senate who fear being held accountable to the law like every other person." The targeting of 5 African-American women Democrats who were chosen by the voters of their counties to serve as DAs is racist, sexist, and clearly unconstitutional. Now this bill heads over to the House for further consideration.
I am Camilo Motado, and this is Camilo's House. As a certified public accountant focused on forensic verification, I don't look at the party slogans. I audit the material impact of legislative changes on the governance portfolio. In a standard audit, if you find that a board of directors is changing the election standards for only 3.1% of the sub-entities, you immediately flag the move for systemic selective auditing. Today, we are performing a non-partisan solvency audit on the Georgia Senate Bill 369. We are analyzing the forensic demographics of the 5 targeted counties, the management response from Fani Willis regarding lawfare coordination, and the regulatory risk that this bill poses to the incumbent assets of the Democratic Party. This is the moment where the partisan ledger of Atlanta is being written down in favor of a nonpartisan market that Fani Willis claims is racist, sexist, and unconstitutional. The operational scope of this bill is surgically precise, and as an auditor of data, I have to highlight the materiality of the selection. Senate Bill 369 doesn't apply to the rural, low-inflow counties. It targets exactly 5 high-density hubs: Clayton, Cobb, DeKalb, Fulton, and Gwinnett. From a market analysis perspective, these 5 counties are the primary revenue centers for Democratic votes in Georgia. Combined, these 5 counties represent nearly 40% of Georgia's total population, yet they are the only ones being forced into nonpartisan reconciliation for offices like DA and tax commissioner. From a forensic integrity standpoint, when you target 4.3 million people out of a 10.9 million population based on their high-density status, you are essentially changing the reporting standards for the largest concentrations of Black and minority voters in the state. The management response from Fani Willis has been a total rejection of the audit. She has disclosed that this bill is a continuation of political attacks on behalf of MAGA extremists. Willis is reporting that the targeting of 5 African-American women Democrats who were chosen by the voters to serve as DAs is a material breach of the Constitution. However, the internal controls of the bill are framed differently by Senator John Albers. He argues that in law enforcement intensive counties with big major events like the World Cup and the Super Bowl, the DA office must be depoliticized to ensure public safety is the only asset being managed. In auditing terms, Albers is proposing a neutral management standard to prevent politics from clouding the ledger. We must also audit the lawfare coordination allegations that have impaired Fani's reputational standing. During a filing of articles hearing, shocking discoveries were made regarding the operational nexus between Fulton County and Washington, D.C. The audit trail reveals that Fani Willis reportedly appeared before a committee on December 17th of last year after a year-and-a-half battle to avoid discovery. The findings suggest systemic coordination with the Jan 6 committee and the White House. The material evidence includes the non-responsive disclosure of Nathan Wade, Fani's special purpose prosecutor. Wade admitted in congressional testimony that he billed for conversations with the Jan 6 committee, yet he claimed a massive case of amnesia regarding who he met with or what was discussed during an 8-hour White House meeting. Governor Brian Kemp is now the final arbiter of this constitutional settlement. He has reminded everyone that he has a big red pen. Groups are freaking out and begging for a veto, claiming that Senate Bill 369 is unconstitutional because it treats certain people differently. From a regulatory risk perspective, a veto would hedge against the threat of lawsuits. However, if Kemp signs the order, Fani Willis will have to run in a nonpartisan market. This recapitalization would allow Republican or independent competitors to acquire market share in Fulton County without the Democratic dividend that typically subsidizes Willis's campaign. If the D is redacted from the ballot, the voter stakeholders will be forced to audit the performance of the DA rather than blindly investing in the party label. For Fani Willis, whose operational results include budgetary overruns and hiring disgraced judges, a performance-based audit is a critical risk. This law could destroy her career because it amortizes the advantage of her partisan base. Without the party protective hedge, her approval rating and ethical liabilities will be the primary drivers of her re-election valuation. My forensic verdict on the 2026 Georgia nonpartisan audit is that the bill is a regulatory hostile takeover. It is designed to impair the incumbent asset by liquidating her partisan support. While public safety is a valid asset, the selective application to only metro area counties is a material breach of geographic equity. Whether Governor Kemp uses his big red pen or signs the dividend of this new law, the audit of Fani Willis has moved from the courtroom to the legislative ballot. I want to hear from you. Is the nonpartisan label a necessary control to clear the cobwebs of politics? Or is it a hostile redaction of the minority vote in Georgia? Should the World Cup and Super Bowl justify a total change in election standards for only 5 counties? Let me know in the comments. Your perspective is the only audit that matters. I am Camilo Motado, and this is Camilo's House. Subscribe to stay informed on the numbers, the laws, and the truth behind the headlines. Stay safe.